Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back here with Kate Panaccione, and she's the director of Square Peg Consulting, that is. Welcome to the show, Kate. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing well.
All right. So tell us a little bit about Square Peg Consulting. I want to point out the website. It's squarepeged.com, correct?
Correct.
Perfect. Well, say hello and give us a little description of your company and tell us what you do.
Well, I'm a consultant for any matters to do with special education.
Mm-hmm.
I get hired by different organizations and parents and attorneys, depending on who it is. But everything that I work with has to do with special education.
And can I ask what brought you into this field of special education? Did you grow up, in a certain environment? What got you into helping people with special needs? It's a beautiful thing you do, by the way.
Oh, I'm the one that benefits the most, but thank you. I hated school growing up.
Really?
I did. I just absolutely hated it. I have such a short attention span that all I wanted to do was chat with other people, and things moved too slowly for me. So I think that part of it was my attraction to special education was I got how hard it is to understand and listen sometimes.
Yeah.
Fortunately, as I got older, I learned ways to cope and was able to get through school. But I think that what is really important is knowing that just because somebody has special education needs doesn't mean they're not crazy intelligent. They are.
I saw something on the news the other day about the rise in doctors who are autistic. I mean, right? People, it's my nephew is special needs. He's autistic, and his parents struggle and wonder, well, what is he going to be? What is he going to do? And I took him to a football camp last night, knowing that the person who put this football camp on now works for the NFL. He's super successful, and he was in special education classes. So I really find that to be a beautiful thing, right? And I think years ago we tended to, can I say this? Look down upon people with special needs. Now I think we're embracing them, and it's amazing for people like you and advocates in the field. Hey, they're just the same, if not better than us, more intelligent than us at times, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about some of the services that you provide, if you don't mind.
Sure. I do all different types of work. I'm often hired by, sometimes I'm hired by government agencies.
Oh, wow.
So they will hire me because they may want to restructure part of their programming or have me do a review of how they offer services. Sometimes it's for offering trainings to school districts in different counties or across the state. Other times it's to consult on individual matters with people that have developmental disabilities or other lifelong disabilities that impact their ability to just be participating in their communities and so forth. So that's how I work with governments. And then I also do a lot of work with attorneys, and I serve as an expert witness. And it might sound kind of odd, like why would you need an expert witness for special education? But there's often times that children with special education needs are hurt because they lack the awareness of their environment, maybe that their peers do. So there's some civil cases where children have been hurt that I consult on, and then there's also cases of due process.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is if a parent feels that the school district isn't doing enough for their child, they can go to due process, and that's just like it's like special education court, basically. It's a hearing. It's not before a jury. It's before a judge, magistrate, and they sometimes need somebody to come in and give an expert opinion on if everything that the child was offered was appropriate and expected.
Wow.
So Yeah, it's
Well,
great.
commend you for what you do. How many years have you been in this business, and how did you develop the concept of starting this business to even help others? Were you always in this business, or did you do something else before this?
Oh, yes, I've been in public education for over 35 years. So this isn't something that I just sort of happened into. I've worked really hard towards this. Um, I've done it all. I was a teacher for everything from early childhood through transition. I've taught undergraduate and graduate courses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've done all kinds of really fascinating work. I've been a teacher myself, teaching in every grade level. I've sat on school committees. I just got fascinated with it and looked for opportunities to learn more at every turn. So
Wonderful. Well,
that's kind of what got me here. I decided at this point in my life that I liked the flexibility and the variety that comes with being a consultant, and also the fact that I have gained an expertise in areas that are needed. You
yeah.
know,
Well, tell us, what did you want to discuss for today's show in particular?
well, I thought it might be interesting if we talked a little bit about critical race theory because it's
Sure.
something in the news a lot lately. And it does actually have something to do with special education because uh, critical race theory is looking at why, in terms of education, looking at why some children might have um, a better start at when the gate opens is what it is. So
Okay.
people have made it a very politicalized theory, but it's not. In behavioral sciences, what we do is we can collect all kinds of data that show us different things. Some of the data that we collect is like that um, children of different ethnicities, children that are not white, tend to be referred for special education services at a higher rate than their white peers. That's just data, that's just facts. And those children also happen to be disciplined more in their school environments.
Got it.
They also, children with English as a second language are often referred to special education services when what they really need is a language service. They
Yeah.
don't, they
That
don't have a
barrier. Yeah.
disability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a barrier, but it's not a disability.
Oh, mm-hmm.
So I think when we take all of those pieces of facts and information, what we do is we try to say, well, I wonder why that's happening. And that's kind of what critical race theory is. It's just the theory, it's just the guess at
Mm-hmm.
why this is happening. Why are why are children of color graduating at lower rates than other children?
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with racism.
No.
It really doesn't. It has to do just with how do we elevate the numbers of all children
Yeah.
graduating.
All inclusive. Yep.
Yeah, so we don't want to be just saying, okay, well, we've got the brightest and the smartest, and they're doing fine and going to Harvard. We want to have everybody have that opportunity and
Absolutely.
everybody being able to start at the same time. So I think when I've read some comments about people feeling that critical race theory is being taught in schools, and when in fact it is not being taught in schools. The information is
Mm-hmm.
is gathered from schools.
Yeah.
The facts are gathered.
Mm-hmm.
It's discussed at higher institutions, institutions of learning, because it's our requirement always to improve education across the board.
Yeah.
There's some really interesting studies about education and what happens if you mix ability groups. And what we've learned is that if you're able to include children that have struggle and have learning difficulties in with all of their other peers and teach them all in the same environment, every child in that room gains more. gains
Wow.
more knowledge, more experience, and more compassion,
Yeah.
which is what we do want to teach our children. That's, I think that when people suggest critical race theory is really about racism, it's not. It's about kindness. It's
Mhm.
about togetherness. It's about collaboration. It's about moral values that we need to be teaching children. You know, you help other people and other people will help you. And
That's
in
it.
doing so, you both will benefit.
Yeah, everyone benefits, and even those beautiful birds around you. Is that birds I'm hearing? Where,
Yes.
where are you where are you based out of, by the way, hun?
Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Beautiful. And obviously, you work with people all over the world, I'm assuming, right? So you have a
Yeah.
virtual business and in-person business at the moment?
It's actually, I work all over the United States. I don't have any cases right now that are local. I work wherever there is a need, and it's everywhere. We haven't got the system of special education um, perfected, you know, and we're always trying to make things better. So part of that is looking at where it's going wrong and trying to fix it.
Wow, amazing. And
And
I'm on the website, squarepeged.com, and I urge everyone to do the same. And like you mentioned before, you work with parents, school districts, attorneys, in so many different ways. For example, evaluations for special educational identification, right? Reevaluations. These are all things that you can help with. And some parents new to school, let alone having a child with disabilities, maybe unaware of what an IEP meeting even is. I know from my sister, but could you elaborate on that? I mean, and the guidance you can give someone out there who's watching or listening today. Hey, there's hope. I can guide you and hold your hand because we need that in life. We all are not experts in every field, but to work with someone who has amazing experience like this, would you mind explaining a little bit, maybe for the parents out there, some of the basics if your child is in need of special education services in a program or needing to be evaluated, the types of things that they would need to know to start?
sure, schools, when children start school, it's often the time that teachers notice they may have a difficulty with learning. So it's not that the child didn't have difficulty earlier, it's just that the request for whatever it was wasn't presented. So
Okay.
if you're teaching a child, and I think one thing that's important to recognize is that there's only 13 areas of disability under IDEA. So if a child has difficulty with one area, you assess them in that area,
Got it.
not every area, just the areas where you think they have problems.
Yeah.
Um, for example, if a child has difficulty with math and writing um, and reading, those would all fall under a category of specific learning disabilities.
Okay.
So we look at, well, why is this child having trouble with this? What's not working the way it typically would? An example is dyslexia or dysgraphia, where actually the pathways, neural pathways are twisted, and that's why things get kind of mixed up. And so a child with dysgraphia, a child can't even read their own writing. They can't because their fingers don't make what they see in their head.
Yeah.
That can be a real problem when a child is trying to write a
Wow.
paragraph.
Yeah.
So when parents start to notice things like that, they refer their child for a special education evaluation.
Yeah.
And that means that somebody goes in and tests them using standardized tests to see where they're at. If they're below a certain level, then what we do is we give them direct instruction. So we pull them from something and we make sure, okay, you need to learn this skill and I'm going to teach it to you.
Yeah.
That's all special education is.
Hmm.
Um, it is something that uh, parents can often get intimidated by. I'm sorry, I don't know what's
That's okay.
Parents often get intimidated by just because the wording is new, and there's a lot of acronyms. You hear IDEA, FAPE, IEP, present levels. None of that word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Parents don't know what that means. As a matter of fact, a president of a bank won't know what that means. It's just industry language.
Hmm.
That's all.
Yeah.
So
But it's
I
very
think
intimidating, right, for someone who doesn't know. So
it
it's
is terribly, well, not only that, add to it the emotional component of, wanting their child to have every
every
opportunity.
opportunity that every other child does, that all of us have. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes parents need to reach out for help with that. And they should start with the school district
Yeah.
because the school district, that's their job, is to explain things in a way that's understandable for parents.
Yeah.
And if parents don't understand it, they should never fear asking questions and
Yeah.
saying, I don't know what you mean. Why are you doing that? How come it's this way?
Yeah.
Because if you're able to ask and answer questions, then parents usually have a better understanding of it and they can support their children at home in ways that are helpful.
Got it. All right. Thank you so much, Kate. What else did you want to share in regards to your services? Again, there's a plethora of them here. So I just want to make sure we're covering everything it is that's important to you.
Hmm. Yes, I also do. I do a lot of parent trainings, and this is for school districts
Oh,
all
good.
over the country. Might hire me to come in and offer some parent trainings, and they can be anything. Every single parent at some point struggles with their child in school. Either they're not doing their homework, or they hate a certain teacher, or their class isn't doing what they wanted, or there's playground problems. There's all those things. And, being a parent, I understand. I mean, we just are sort of all winging it along the way, hoping that we're being helpful. Well, if we have an understanding of how children learn and why they learn and what motivates them to learn, it can help parents to understand and support their children if their children are refusing to do homework.
Yeah.
What can a parent do to help their child just get their homework done?
Yeah.
I teach things. I teach parents all about the IEP process, about the whole thing and what to expect and what
Yeah.
it's called and why, what they can ask for, and
Hmm.
what's within the law.
Got it.
Those are, you know, there's a lot that goes into it. Special education is all about law. That's what it is. Um, Teaching is about teaching.
Yeah.
Special education is the law of teaching.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. So we have best practices and research based methods that we use to teach that show us that if we teach it in this way, children that have a hard time with it will get better at it.
Yeah. And I also read before, I think it was under the attorney section, but you're also involved with crisis interventions as well. Could you
Yeah,
explain sometimes some of the things that happen and how you can help in those situations?
sure. Um, a lot of time. I mean, it's not unusual now. Every school has children that, for one reason or another, aren't available to learn. Even their behaviors might get in the way. Their emotions might get in the way. Their social skills may get in the way. And when that happens, children are often acting out.
Yeah.
They're acting out in ways that make, one child among 35 can interrupt the learning of the entire class.
Yeah.
It can happen. And it's not because children are bad. It's because the child doesn't have the skills needed to be able to cope with the situation.
Yeah.
That's all teaching too.
Got it.
And so what I do is I work with teachers and school districts, also parents in this case, to come up with plans for finding out why is that child behaving the way they are. And coming up with a functional behavioral assessment, which is just a fancy way of saying we map it out to see when it happens, why it happens, and what happens after. And then we come up with a plan that gets them what they need without them having to act it out.
Got it. Which is
So even if what they're trying to do is get out of work, okay, you want to get out of work? That's fine. You can get out of work, but you don't have to scream at the teacher to do it.
mm-hmm.
So that's how we start to shape those behaviors. It's a whole science in itself. It's fascinating.
Oh, I could tell your passion, your energy, and by you doing so much to help others, it's wonderful to see that smile. It's radiating here, and I'm sure everyone could see and listen and hear how you are. Other areas of focus for you, could you share if someone out there maybe watching and saying, wait, that's something I could maybe use for my child or for my friend? What other services do you provide, Kate?
Well, yeah, right now I work for myself and by myself. However, I do have other resources. And the services that I provide, what I like best is when I'm contacted by parents and then they don't need to hire me at all. Oftentimes, what happens is they'll call with questions or email me with questions, and they say, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to turn. And they give me a little background, and I'm happy to chat with them over the phone and then point them in the right direction and say, go try this.
Mm,
Try this first. Because ultimately, what every parent wants is ideally their child to be educated in their local school.
yeah,
And the way to do that is to be collaborative with school districts and to understand what are the constraints the school district is working with. And then I can even offer suggestions. It doesn't, I don't want people to feel like they can't contact me unless they hire me, um, because that's simply not the case. I'm a resource for people so that I can hear what they have to say and point them in the right direction and say, try this.
yeah.
This might be something that will work. Talk to this person.
Mm,
They're the ones that would be able to change that.
got it.
And most things can get resolved pretty easily if people know the right way to go about it.
Got it. Not everyone does. So, Kate, tell us how we can contact you.
Well, you can reach me at my website, and it's Kate at squarepeged.com is my email address. And they can also call my work phone. I have 603-828-7961. And I usually try to get back to people, definitely within 24 hours. Um, and I'm, I encourage people to call. I really
And
do.
would you mind sharing a little more of your personal background? I read that you used to teach, right?
Yes.
Pre-K up to high school. You also have some amazing accolades. I know it's hard to talk about yourself, but no, it's all here on the website. Your experience. Can you share? And you're also research coordinator at Oregon Health and Sciences University Child Development Rehabilitation for study with autism. You've done a lot. Can you just share a little bit about that? I think it's important to know that you are extremely qualified and you've done a lot. So please share that with our listeners today.
Okay. Well, I have been really fortunate. I really have had this wildly awesome career, and it's given me the experiences of so many different people. I taught overseas for a while, which gave me, teaching a classroom of children that come from 20 different countries, and only two of them are native English speakers
Uh-huh.
gives you a new perspective on what learning is. I also, one of my proudest achievements is I started a school in a psychiatric hospital, because some children that have developmental disabilities lack the ability to communicate what they're feeling effectively. That often turns into behaviors of throwing things or even injuring themselves,
Yeah.
So there was a need, and I was able to partner with one of the local psychiatric hospitals and get approval from the state to open a teaching. It's an education program as part of psychiatric inpatient environment for children with developmental disabilities. It's an amazing program, and it's a research center. It's just so needed. And I think that it serves as a model for other programs, and there are other ones that have started to develop around the country. But what I think I'm finding next is we really lack adult services for individuals with developmental disabilities.
That's a good point.
That's the next place we're going to have to take a look.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that. And we'll close on that today. What I need from you again is the best forms of contact, please.
Yes, just go to my website, www.squarepegconsulting.com, or email me, kate@squarepeged.com. And you can also just give me a phone.
The old-fashioned way. Go ahead. What's the phone number?
603-828-7961.
Great. And can we find you on social media at all?
I don't do social media because a lot of what I do is confidential, so I just avoid it.
All right. Thank you so much, Kate. Maybe next time we can elaborate more on the adult aspect of those with special needs that sometimes are forgotten, sometimes need that help, and you can give us some guidance along that field. Is that okay for you?
Sure, that works.
Perfect. Kate, it's a pleasure meeting you, and thank you for being here with us. And thank you, most importantly, for enlightening our listeners and for doing what you do. You have a great day, okay?
You too.
Great.
Bye-bye.
More of the show is on the way. Stay tuned.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.